Hello everybody and welcome to CGL Week 1. We're here with Mob Mentality versus Offense Church. I'm accompanied by me, Boomtown, and also my partner in crime, Baba Yaga. Gonna help you guys out with his commentary. First map's gonna be Lijiang Tower. Looks like we're gonna get set up on the marketplace, and hopefully it's gonna be a good one.
3, 2, 1. Round 1. Capture the objective.
Testing out the pauses, make sure everything's okay. Double checking to make sure if the other team needed a pause before we get underway here. All right, and we're all ready to go. Looks like we're going down in mid. Doesn't elect to go. Looks like we're going to take the Symmetra teleporter up to the top. And also, Offense Church also using the same strategy going in. Or the Reinhardt's battling it out. It is going to be dependent on who's the first pick. First pick does go to Slush. Campbell is also able to get the pick on AK, so it is a trade for trade. Slush able to burst down the Jay, the trash man. Capra taking up the kill. And it looks like Mob has a pretty dominant lead over the first point so far. It looks like the first point is going to go way of Mob Mentality. So Offense Church definitely mirroring the comp of what Mob Mentality had shown them previously. And we'll see if Mob can hold on to this lead and this damage so far.
In that initial fight on Marketplace is literally the craziest fighting.
Yeah, it's so close quarters. It's just, you know,
so
you have little to no elbow room to just fight your enemies in this small space. So it really is dependent on, you know, burst damage heroes that you could use like Junkrat to get that splash damage in for sure. Offense Church looking to kind of mirror the front, trying to burst down Twizz's shield. They have a Pharah now, so they're trying to poke a little bit more damage. Enemy Reinhardt going through the center, but Twizz is able to push him back pretty aggressively. Symmetra is going to burst down, so Offense Church is going to have to realize what they're going to do with Slush when he's full charge. You have basically two projectile heroes just melting your shields on the front line, so looks like they're going to, might be an ulti here from Slush. Slush with the ult barrier coming out. I would assume they're going to push off of this. Slush able to take down Hawk. And the Dragon comes out, a little bit off target, but still fighting around the initial side. Jen able to play mop-up in a pretty good engage off of, I mean, just it looks like one ult so far. A lot of ults in the bank still for Mob Mentality. Slush putting it back, that teleporter. Let's take a little bit on the side from Twizz. Twizz was able to get a really good front push, so he does have an Earth Shatter ready to go.
Yeah, a lot of ults were used by the red team there as well.
Offense Church seeing if they can break this pretty strong solid defense. Lucio sound boost does come through. Pharah ult a little bit is able, anti-air is able to get AK. Guru with the rip tire. Okay, the trash man falling once again. And this is going to be a slow mop up, so it looks like point number 1 is going to go to Mob Mentality. I mean, pretty solid defense throughout the whole thing. I mean, there really wasn't any room that Mob gave Offense Church to, you know, be able to work with. So very strong first round for Mob Mentality.
Look at this team. We're gonna do great.
Hello.
So you expect to see any changes from this team comp? I would
I don't
probably
know, they just
say
they kind of, it worked well, but Marketplace is definitely better for the Symmetra Junkrat. This map here is good as well. I thought we were playing on the other one, but yeah, the Symmetra, there won't be many changes at all to the comp on this one.
so. It's probably the same cut and dry. Looking to elect to probably go through the window. They're going to try it once more to see if it was just so dominant the first round. And really, I mean, as far as, you know, scrim history goes, it's one of the only offenses that's pretty difficult to break. Hawk is going to get caught out here on the ball, so this might be a retreat from Offense Church. Symmetric damage coming in. There is an echo in the sky, so not the hit scans might be a variable here, but if you play it smart, play inside, might not be too much of an issue. So Mob Mentality is getting the first point once again. Echo trying to put some pressure onto the point, see if they can get a quick pick before the team commits. Ball rolling through. And Hog booped off there. Big boop coming in through AK to get Jace. Also, Capra helped with the secure as well. So this may be 2 down on the side of Offen Church, and they're looking for a hard regroup. So the pocket does come in on the fair, or I'm sorry, on the echo. Looking to add a little bit more pressure. Ball rolling through once more. Mob does need to be careful with these ball picks. And Ball, unfortunately, falling off the edge right there. Not able to, I think, maybe tether around that corner and get out of free. There is a hog flank coming around the right side, so Mob may try to mirror the hallway, putting in some pressure. But pretty 50% on the point now, and Offen Church does need to get established here. They can't wait too long. A hook comes through, big bubble. Immortality is going to absorb a lot of the damage. Twist trying to get it down. Finally runs out. Anti-air able to pick off Guru. Twist slapping. Campbell up on top. He either needs to get out or wipe with his team.
Offen Church finally decided to take the other way other than bridge with the Lucio boops.
Yeah, it just looked like they were getting
didn't come through on that one.
Yeah, it looked like they were getting a little bit too, how do you say, a little bit too disorganized on that bridge, especially with a lot of boot potential. But the Echo ult does come out to near the Reinhardt. So this could be a change of momentum. A big Lucio ult coming out. Twist, that Lucio ult's immediately gone of all that damage. Twiz looking to take the heroic route and offer himself to the tribe. Jen trying to get out. So, I mean, a 99% hold. Offen Church is able to establish for the first time in game 1 on Lijiang. So good last push, do or die from Offen Church. Mob Mentality has 2 ults to work with, pretty big ones as well. So let's see if they can string together. Looks like Slush is going to be getting off of this sim, which is a good call. I mean, once the sim defense is kind of broken, it's a good idea to switch. They do need to address the Echo, putting a little bit more pressure. Ball a little bit still harassing. Nothing too much that they need to worry about. So as long as Mob does push through this hallway and doesn't stay around for too long, engage the fight quickly, it should go smooth sailing. But we need to see if Offen Church has anything up their sleeves to stop them. And Wicked Flame getting Slush. There's an ulti coming out from Capra. Twiz with one, Guru with the immortality down. Jen able to take out Burger. Unfortunately, Jen does fall from the ball. Slush trying to make his way back to point. And Twiz barely alive with 50 health here. Let's see if his healers can keep him up. Unfortunately, he does fall. AK able to get a pick. Capra is looking like this. Just the ball left on point. Winston Primal Rage. Trying to buy his team a little bit more time. So there is a lot of characters to contest this point. You got a Winston to deal with. You got a Ball to deal with. You got a Lucio to deal with. Look at AK chasing the hamster. Trying to get that last secure kill. Is that going to affect the healing? No. Doesn't look like it will. Overtime, that would have been a big kill. If AK could secure it, he knows how valuable getting that ball to not stall overtime is. He needs to be careful with this B, saving it. Very smart. Very smart. Using it now to secure the final point. Will Mob Mentality be able to hold? There is one person, 2 people still contesting. It looks like that will be the end of overtime. So Mob Mentality does take game 1. I mean, that's a pretty solid showing from what we've seen.
And it really goes back to the original conversation of it's the initial fights. They came out both sections of the map there and was able to win the initial fights, which with Symmetra, when you set up defenses, it's a whole new ball game.
You do change the dynamic of what the attackers have to do because, as we talk about, the enemy team has to come to you. And so if you have all of these defenses just working with you, waiting patiently, like, turrets in different corners, people playing the angles, I mean, it's really tough to break, especially not just with Symmetra, but, if you had another brawly character like a Reaper or, a very close range character. All right, everybody, we are back. In map 2 CGL week 1, Mob Mentality was able to take the first map of Lijiang Tower. Now we're up in Hollywood with Mob Mentality attacking and Offen Church defending. So again, I mean, pretty strong showing from what we see with the symmetric comps on control. If it goes to map 5, we could expect maybe some of the same things from Mob Mentality. The burden is on Offen Church to come up with a solution. And I think running the same comp was a healthy start. but it seems like they need a little bit more, you know, to get those engines going on control point. So here it is on Hollywood. Let's see how Mob does. Slush opting to go the Echo route. There is a pocket on the enemy Echo so far. Taking that high ground in the juice positioning. Pocket a little bit lower. There's a Winston and a Zarya on the side of Offen Church. Slush taking quite a bit of damage from the corner. Swizz advancing. Echo putting in the poke. And there is a pick coming from anti-air against Slush. The dive coming in. AK barely getting that res. I'm not really sure how, but he was able to. Swizz playing very patiently since the anti-healing came in. Guru looking for a pick. Swizz and Capra doing a great job taking the pressure off of one another. Team elects to go high ground. Guru just trying to switch to Guru immediately. I was going to say the high ground was going to be great for Guru to help his team get a little bit further, but the dive does come through on him and on AK. Primal Rage is popped. Echo duplication is also popped. Slush melting them pretty evenly, but he does need to get out. This is going to be a forced regroup on the side of Mob Mentality. Ooh, what a cheeky pick. The bubble coming out the last minute just to save him. Three ultis on the side of Mob Mentality. Let's see what they decide to go with here. The Winston did do a good job. The Zarya ulti, grab dragon. Woo, for 4 kills. Anti-air coming up big with 2 kills of his own. And unfortunately that won't be enough to stop. I mean, the potential was there definitely for anti-air. A great play to basically get 2 of those picks, but at the end of the day, just the grab dragon really perfectly orchestrated from the side of Mob Mentality to help them secure that point.
And able to reserve a couple ultimates for the next fight as well.
Yeah, saving a lot of the ultimate banks, you know, in that ulti war, they still have Slush, whatever he chooses to use it. So I think that's one mistake that a lot of teams may make, especially on the attacking side. If you commit 5 ults, you know, if it's not the last point, you know, you could be screwed for the later on in the map.
Yeah.
Swizz zoning out here. Let's take and see the action from Slush. A little bit of trouble here. Anti-air able to work with, I believe it's Jay the Trashman. So Jay's been doing a really great job. I mean, on that Winston, just harassing and putting the pressure on the people he needs to put the pressure on. Another nano coming out. Is it on Jay? Yes, it is. Offen Church knowing Jay's getting a lot of these secure kills, so you know, a lot of resources dived into him. And this is going to be a hard reset for Mob Mentality. So Nano was used on the side of Offen Church. But Jay playing, you know, phenomenal as far as addressing, you know, some of the things that Mob is bringing to the table. Grab coming out from Offen Church. Is there anything else to follow up? Just the damage from the monkey. Primal Rage. Primal Rage did a great job separating the healers, but Swizz comes up with an ulti of his own. Demented Yak getting a kill as Widow, picking off one of the healers. So the burden is on Mob to kind of take this high ground away from Offen Church. Obviously the jail is one of the most popular spots on the defenders to hold to stop that ankle from coming. There is another grab dragon in the books, so if it worked once, maybe it'll work again. So let's see if Mob Mentality is going to keep using that combo to shut down a lot of Offen Church's defenses. Grab coming up. Another dragon, there it is. A little bit off-centered, not as effective as the first one, but enough to get anti-air out of the equation. The ball's rolling in on the main tanks. It looks like a lot of separation coming in from Offen Church. Lucio ult being used. Campbell trying to get out of the line of fire, but also knows he needs to stall. And again, pretty solid run from Mob Mentality coming through. So on the side of Offen Church there, I think a lot of the dive was committed to the high ground. Big headshot coming from Demented. A lot of it was committed to the high ground, and it just seemed after maybe that Ground Dragon came in, they were just a little bit too separated to continue fighting. We saw some people, like the tanks, the Ball, and the Winston, coming in from behind. A little bit of the healers up top, so really just kind of a mess on the defenses, but you know, to their benefit, or I guess you could say to their argument, trying to get a regroup on that second part of Hollywood is probably one of the most difficult phases of the map that you can do, just because it's such a long distance to cover. But third point, much easier for the defenders to kind of regroup and be situated together with one another. So the respawn is definitely in the works of the defender. Valkyrie coming out from the side of AK. Attack Visor coming out the side of Offen Church. They do need to be careful with this Attack Visor. Seems like most of the team is able to get out. Gapra does get demacked, and Guru picking up a big double kill. Also Jen putting in some damage and work as well. Earthshatter Nano. And a pin from the spawn coming from Twiz. I mean, talk about cheeky moves. You're talking about the cheeky soldier trying to stall from behind. Nobody notices. Campbell a little bit out of position, trying to hold that high ground. He does get saved with a little bit of healing. Tracer coming out for a last-minute contest. Anti-air trying to get back into the action. He's going to be picked off by Guru. Good focus fire coming out from the way of Mob Mentality. And that should be the last bit of effort. So a minute 12. I mean, respectable for sure. The one thing I definitely noticed about Offen Church, and maybe you could touch on it a little bit, it seems like the dive comp is something that they decided to commit on defense, right? And we definitely saw a lot of aggression coming out, you know, from the Winston, coming out from Jay the Trash Man. But was there much else to help him in that situation?
Yeah, and Overwatch is definitely one of the most chess-like first-person shooters you can play, and you just have to realize you have to play something different if it's not going to counter the mob's lineup there. You know, dive didn't work. It worked the first time, but then after they figured it out, it just never seemed to slow down.
And I think after what we saw from
out.
Jay, definitely, I mean, it's not that Jay himself, because he was playing tremendously on Winston.
Oh, yeah.
It's just,
Absolutely.
as far as the value on his Primal Rage, you know, what kind of value are you trying to get? And I think we did see value during Phase 2 where he was able to separate all the healers, but then Twiz was like, hey, there's no front line, so let me just Earthshatter everyone on point. You know, so it is kind of this back and forth. You know, obviously running dive defense is difficult. It's not impossible. It's definitely doable as a kind of a wild card, you know, throw in your face. But I would really like to see Offen Church's dive on this attack, because it does seem like there was moments in Mob Mentality's attacking that there was a lot more space that they gave maybe than they should have. So is a dive going to come through to kind of punish Mob Mentality? Let's see if it comes through. The Winston elected to be used again, so there is Jay the Trash Man on Winston, so I would love to see him use a little bit more of this Primal Rage to kind of create chaos on the point, create chaos, you know, for the backline. Was done a couple times. Also, the Nano's coming through. He is diving high ground on the side of Cafe. Slush needs to get out of the line of fire. Twiz doing a good job under pressure, making sure everybody's safe. A big pick from Slush. I mean, we saw preseason week. Slush, you know, Ash. It was a huge thing that a lot of teams, or at least the team in preseason, was hard to contest against. So, you know, Slush relying on this Ash, you know, to kind of do what it does. Maybe Ash will be the answer for a lot of the holds on defense for Mob Mentality, until a team can come in and really shut down, you know, what Slush has done. Because on Volskaya preseason week, he was just completely on fire. And so, you know, these are definitely one of the situations, you know, that we may see this again today. A lot of barriers coming through. There is a Bob on deck, ready to contest. A big anti-heal. Demented. We haven't talked about Demented much, but Demented is consistently beginning his value on Widow. So, you know, there's another wildcard factor, but it just seems the front line isn't able to hold anymore. So, despite the fact of you know, Demented getting these picks on as Widow. I mean, he's been doing it pretty consistently. We've seen 4 or 5 already just on the 3rd point. You know, is this going to be something later on that Often Church is going to bring to the table to shut us down? We're getting a little bit of a peek here. Does need to be careful with that Widowmaker. Widow up on high ground. Slush again smartly gets out of the way, knowing that also this Zen burst very potential to be bad. Focusing shield a little bit. Both teams playing. Oh, look at that cheeky shotgun to get the high ground on the Widow. Definitely a power play coming through Slush. Almost pinned from the Reinhardt there. Dragon coming out from Guru. Transcendence is popped from the Dragon. You know, you do have to wonder, was that a nano that could have been used for another attacking? You know, it was I believe there was 2 people down on the side of Often Church, and so popping that nano, you know, was kind of a Hail Mary play, so to speak, but time is running out on the side of Often Church, so it is do or die, but we have seen them come up to do or die situations. Is this going to be one of them? Immortality comes out on the side of Often Church. I think somebody got slept with the Lucio, and a Guru able to pick it off. I believe he got slept out of his ulti. Guru hitting this high ground. He needs to be careful with the Widow. Again, Demented coming up on the Widow to shut down these DPSs. But is it going to be enough? No res coming in on the side of Guru. I believe it is on cooldown from AK. Twiz able to mop up Hawk. Demented a little bit staggered on the end, so this is do or die from Often Church. Really only Bob and maybe a Dragon to work with if Mob is lucky, but Bob may be enough to kind of shift momentum away from them. This is the last 10 seconds in the final push. Earth Shatter, big coming through. Front line collapsing a little bit. Twiz trying his best. The Immortality popped almost at the perfect timing. A Reaper pick coming through, which we'll talk about a little bit after this combat is over. Baptiste taking the high ground. 2 kills on the side of Mob Mentality, and I believe Guru is going to probably elect to hold this Dragon. So again, we do see the Reaper switch coming out. Do you agree with this Reaper switch, Baba? What do you think about it?
I think they're starting to realize that the front line on Mob's side is really holding up pretty strong. And if you couldn't beat it with dive, then just bash your head a little harder with Reaper, and you may break through.
And it seems like, again, Demented electing to kind of 1v1 Slush on this Ashe. You know, I think he was doing phenomenally well on the Widow, but maybe Ashe is a little bit more of the answer they're looking for to help with this frontline damage. So we're seeing this cheeky kind of tightrope fight coming up from both sides to take the high ground. Dragon is going to be enough to force them off. And unfortunately, no picks. Looks like it's going to go the way of Guru. Maybe used mainly to zone to establish that high ground dominance, not necessarily to get any kills. Anti-air getting picked. There's a Bob on the side of Mob Mentality. Nano boost coming out on Twiz. Twiz looking to take it to the front line. Oh, and just missing the mark barely with the sound barrier. You know, you always hate to see that happen. I mean, as a support player, it's one of the things that you cringe every time because it's literally the second after you press the button, somebody's able to get picked, and you know, you just wish you pressed it 1 second earlier. But those things happen. They happen all the time. And so it really just comes down to the timing, you know, the healing on the other side. Twiz has a little bit of support. Capra coming to his flank. Was realizing the front line is going to be a little bit more than he bargained for. And so I was a little bit worried on Twiz's positioning, not because he was out of position, but we know that Often Church is having a very brawly comp now. And so is playing 2 off DPS is going to be enough to hold the defense? We'll see. There is 30 seconds left on the end of the clock. I would have liked to see Often Church push the doorway a little bit. Capra almost full stack. Bob coming out on the side of Often Church. Mob Mentality needs to help the Reinhardt. And a big ulti coming out from an anti-air. 4 players down on the side of Mob Mentality, so it looks like Offenchurch is going to be able to at least keep this alive for the final point. AK trying desperately to get out, putting on the jukes, and unfortunately doesn't make it through the hallway, so pretty close. Mob is going to get staggered off of this respawn. They need to back up.
And that Reaper is definitely showing evident now that probably the correct choice to combat this.
Definitely. And
Taking the shields down to make him able to take more picks. Definitely has the accuracy on his side.
Absolutely showing up, but definitely with that Death Blossom too. I mean, just goes to his credit. You know, how he needs to run things, how he needs to focus Twiz. Again, Twiz is the front man of this, and Capra is on his flank, but we both know that two tanks by themselves might not be enough. Immortality comes out to defend against all of these ultis coming out from Mob Mentality. And I believe that was 4 on the side of Mob Mentality, maybe 3. Anti-air, unable to get out. So a very good stoppage of momentum from coming out from the side of Mob Mentality. I believe all that was necessary. Even if Twiz had used the Earth Shatter just to secure, I mean, I wouldn't have blamed him. Again, we talked about earlier today, how much do you want to commit to these team fights? You know, how much are you going to save? So is this Earth Shatter going to be a moment where Twiz is glad he saved it in that team fight? Or he's going to be wished he had used it earlier? And I think we have our answer. Unfortunately, he is able to get taken out. Rez coming in from AK, able to do so safely. Lucio a little bit overextended from Burger Flipper, so is that going to make the difference in the healing? Jay trying to zone far away, but he is slept. Twiz falling once again, a little bit too much damage coming through. Guru also electing to choose the Reaper for his own. Crazy chaotic fight happening. The Reaper is still up on the side of Offenchurch. Ultimate coming through. And it looks like Offenchurch is going to get this for a 3-for-3. So the Reaper pick definitely was the answer. I mean, we both agree. Definitely how Demented showed up, how he played that Reaper, a lot of the shot calling, and it seems like was on the side of Demented. And he was able to kind of lead his team to able to get that really hard contested 3-0. If I had to tell you from the beginning, based on Offenchurch's attack, I mean, it didn't really seem like there was much energy they were bringing to attacking side, so it's nice to see that they were able to rally up, go and continue to pushing on, and bring this to basically a draw. I mean, you know, they need to do that on their side to get it and keep this game going.
And now the question lies on, are they going to stick with the composition they just had, or switch back to what they had at the very beginning of the game for defense here?
That is very true. I mean, you have a lot of high ground to work with. I think using a Reaper is never a bad idea. I mean, if you really have to do it, you know, there's always the situations where it's just you could throw a Reaper in and it will work effectively. If I had to guess, I would say that I hope Offenchurch has caught on that the adjustments that they made are the reasons why they have the success on this map. And so I don't see any reason why they would want to adjust, but you know, again, Demented on the Widow is still a factor in this. I don't think Mob has brought anything to the table to really take that Widow seriously. So hopefully it won't catch them off guard. But with a minute 12, maybe that's enough for 2 attacks. You know, it will have to be a pretty quick fight. Otherwise, this will be a draw going the way. And Jen getting bursted immediately from the anti-air. Luckily, there's a res coming in for her, but you know, is that res going to be needed later on? A huge cooldown on that Mercy res. So we'll see if it's going to be something that decides the fate of this next point. The Twiz, I like to go a little bit of the Winston. Kind of mirroring what the attacking side did as well. Slush putting in some pressure with this Tracer play. A lot of pressure coming in. And Ash going over the roof, it looks like. Coming back down. Unfortunately, Mob is wiping a little bit on the front line. Anti-air showing up big. I mean, where has Anti-air been? Coming up on the Reaper, coming up on the Junkrat. I mean, he's really taking this match into his own hands. And it's up to Mob to not let him do it for this next and final fight. Maybe the targeting needs to come in on Anti-air from Slush. Unfortunately, the melee does miss a little bit there. He is able to mop it up. Anti-air also going off. Pulse bomb on the side of Slush. Big pulse bomb coming out from Slush. He does need to get anti-air. This will make the difference. Res coming in from AK on Guru on the Genji. And a Bob is going to throw a little bit problematic into the attacking side. Primal Rage booping off the Bob, but he is stuck in a trap. Anti-air getting the pick off of it. And this might be the end for the attacking of Mob Mentality. Guru and Slash fighting desperately to keep it alive. Ball coming in from Capra. Capra trying to breathe some life. Slush still alive. Almost another pulse bomb on deck. And unfortunately does not touch. So this is going to be a draw. Coming in from Hollywood, so Offen Church able to keep it from going from a loss deficit. I mean, just this this Junkrat, I mean, at the end, it really surprised me. I mean, it was consistently probably 6 or 7 kills in the kill feed. And obviously Jay the Trashman showing up here with a nano boost. But I really think that it was on him to show up for that last point, and he definitely did.
Yeah. Yeah, it's right there. It just shows we definitely have a game on our hands.
Now entering the temple.
So we're up on Temple of Anubis. This is going to be map 3, CGL, week 1. The score right now, Mob Mentality does have 1 win on their belt. There is 1 draw as well. And so I believe Offen Church definitely still in this. Definitely able to keep it maybe to a game 5. You know, they came up big with a big defense. You know, we talked about a little bit about the Junkrat, about how we're expecting to see that. So I'm in agreement with you, Yaga. I think I would love to see a Pharah coming out from Guru. We both know that he's a capable Pharah. We both know how well he excels in that. So the question is that, do they think on the, at least on the attacking side, I mean, a Pharah defense, maybe not so much, but Pharah attack possibly, you know, it remains to be seen. So taking a look at the comp, Guru is going to elect to go a little bit more the Junkrat route. We do have 2 shields up on the side with Slush on Ashe. All right. Offen Church ready to take through the main choke. And Offen Church coming up with a really aggressive first start to run around right side. So we talked about the strategy a little bit last week as far as how do you mirror a strategy that you go immediately so quickly and so fast. And the only way to really do it is to take the fight to them. Go up behind those stairs, run around the right side, and fight to them. Otherwise, fight them on high ground. But there is going to be people still using that high ground against you, so you do need to be careful. Offen Church giving up the high ground quite easily, so this is all for the point. And it looks like it's going to pay off. Jay the Trashman getting the first pick. And it doesn't look like Mob Mentality is going to be able to hold this. Guru coming up with a pick of his own. Window is going to be used, and that's going to finalize the pick. So AK electing to go for the wipe. And just extremely aggressive coming out from Offen Church. I don't know about you, Yaga, but I don't think Mob saw that coming. I really don't think that they really saw that on their radar.
No, not at all. Obviously.
It was just so quick, so well timed. It just seemed like they knew they had a strategy the minute they came out of the gate, and so it really is on Mob to kind of deal with what they've shown them.
And once the back was turned to the Widow, it was quite devastating to the Mob Mentality there.
Yep, just able to get free roam poke. The visor is coming out on the side of Widow. Is there going to be an Earthshatter coming in the works for Jay the Trashman? There it is. Twiz a little bit off-centered. He might regret that positioning a little bit later. Jay the Trashman is able to fall eventually. Ultimate coming out from the side of Guru. His Riptire has 4 health. Is he going to detonate it? He is able to get a big detonation. Almost popped from putting in the damage. So this is going to be a regroup coming off from Offen Church. So going back to the first part of what we saw on the first capture, it really looked like Offen Church did their homework. I mean, I can't tell you how impressed You know, seeing that technical of a maneuver being orchestrated, you know, where everybody's on the same point. They know they want to buy, you know, pressure for the Widow so that you could turn the backs to her so that the rest of the team is on point. I mean, and it's just mad respect for the shot callers leading that communication. It's definitely what Offenchurch needs to put them back into this game and get a win under the belt. There's a pick coming out on the side of Guru. He's able to get Burger Flipper. Guru is going to get picked off. Demented on this Hanzo. AK's res is again always dressed to impress. I really have yet to see a res that AK gets punished for. I mean, if a team really wanted to shut down the healing side and Molten Core coming out from the side of Slush, Immortality is going to be popped, and a lot of ults used on the side of Offenchurch. Is this going to be enough to secure the point? Jaded Trashman is going to get picked off. Dragon also used. Slush ended up following. Guru trying his best to do the burst damage before he falls, but it will be the last member of Mob Mentality on the point, so Stall Comp is going to have to come out here. Earth Shatter Belief coming from the side of Twiz. Mob definitely able to bring this back. Slush barely missing the Baptiste there. Guru with another quick ulti, able to get anti-air off this Sombra. And so the Sombra, how did you feel about the Sombra push? I mean, I feel like it could have been placed a little bit better, but do you think that it was enough value for that? I mean, they did get 2 ticks.
I honestly, I think the Sombra there was kind of valid. I think they needed it to. They still had a few players left, even after using so many ults. But now you do have to wonder: is that really going to cost them later on using multiple ults just for a couple of ticks?
Exactly, and it seems like, I mean, maybe the 2 ticks, maybe it'll come into a factor. I mean, if Mob can't get the 2 ticks on their own, you know, so maybe that will be the deciding factor on that. It seems like the enemy Zarya is trying to catch some people out of position. Twiz doing a good job keeping his shield up, but I believe there is an Earth Shatter on the side of Jade Trashman. I don't think we've seen it yet. Barrier is destroyed. Slush trying to put some backline poke pressure. Let's take a look at Slush. He's deep in it. And unfortunately, he does get picked. So you do trade the backline for the front line. And that's kind of, I mean, you could probably attest to this. If the goal of Tracer is to at least, if you're able to ward off that attack, then hopefully you buy enough time for the front line to kind of bullet.
Yeah.
So grenades coming in from the side of Offenchurch. Slush looking to set up this pulse bomb. Not much else to help him coordinate. But if he does nail it, it is going to force a restart, a recontest. Slush catching on to the sneaky Junkrat, maybe setting up for his own ulti. And a big ultimate coming out from Anti-Air that does kill 4 people. Immortality saves them from the grab. Anti-Air again, consistently showing up. And it's unfortunate that we missed that, and I'm sure we'll see it again. But I mean, this ultimates coming out from Anti-Air have been impactful.
Yeah, well, correct me if I'm wrong, but it just seems like we're watching a completely different team here from the first map of the series with Offenchurch. The grouping in itself is completely different.
Exactly. Just the way they coordinate, the way they move in this map, I think that we've seen a kind of a breath of fresh air and a second wind coming from Offenchurch. Something wasn't in their confidence level when they first played the control map, and maybe that's just their experience of maybe what they have on control. But I think, you know, he, especially on the side of Anti-Air, it's just, you see that he's leading from the front. You see that he may be the rallying force behind this. And so if he has to get those 3-man, 4-man kills, he'll do it. And he's able to consistently do it. So, again, the burden is on Mob to shut down Anti-Air. Get that Junkrat before you commit to team fights. Know that he's gonna show up and he's gonna destroy your plans. You know, so you have to deal with them sooner rather than later. A lot of focus coming from the DPS have been mainly on the tanks, with a couple of exceptions when the hit scan versus hit scan, but we'll see if Mob can rally up. I feel like Mob needs, again, a brush of their own fresh air, you know, to go into this, and so not lose faith, not get discouraged, definitely show up and show up consistently.
Have that mob mentality. So to say.
Exactly. So Capra already at 63% charge, which is going to definitely help her in the later phases of the team fights. The important part is, can she keep this? Doesn't look like they're going to elect to go right. So Twiz a little bit ahead of his team. And I'm a little bit worried that not everyone's going to get through this passageway. It looks like everybody's able to make it safely. It looked a little bit contentious there. So we saw Off in Church all commit to the point. Is that what Mob Mentality is going to do here? Junkrat again needs to be secured and contained. He is anti-air, so is that going to be the fall of Off in Church? Can Off in Church prove that they don't need anti-air to win in this team fight? Twiz showing up big. And it looks like this might be a wipe on Off in Church. So it's kind of what we said, Yaga. Deal with anti-air. Deal with anti-air.
Yep, and you have the Pharah to counter with him now, and you also have the Winston to counter the snipers. So I think they're doing perfectly here on the attack meta. The composition they have running here is perfect for what Off in Church is running.
So very solid attack. I mean, we see Mob Mentality adapt the same strategy that Off in Church used against them. So we will see. There is ult charge on the side of the attacking side here, and probably not as much on the defending side. So is there going to be a little bit missed jump from Twiz? I felt like he wanted to get on top of that top tower. Ultimate coming in from anti-air. It is burst this time. Anti-air is secured, so it's up to Mob Mentality to fight this now and take this now. Winning this point now is going to be a huge time benefit for their team. Getting the Lucio is important on this map. And it looks like they're going to do it, but there is going to be a recontest coming from the side of Off in Church. They are going to go stall here. They are holding up the doors. Almost gets it, but somebody does touch at the last second. It is the Lucio. I'm sorry, the Pharah. Ball does touch. Pharah does fall. The healing does need to be dedicated on the tanks here. Mob Mentality getting a little bit of spread out. They do need to stay together on this point. They don't want to be spread out. They don't want to take separate fights here. They need to continue to focus fire, continue calling out their targets. They're doing a good job so far, but there's a couple more tanks they need to deal with. Ball ends up falling. Mei is still alive. If that Mei ult is able to come out, it might not be their fight anymore. And Mob taking it at almost 4 minutes. So as a decisive round as it was for Off in Church, Mob Mentality striking back with a better time of their own.
And now you can kind of feel the momentum sort of swinging back into Mob Mentality's favor. But definitely by noticing the Junkrat of anti-air there, you could definitely see the difference that makes.
So we got a good perspective on Capra, and I think really the props go to Capra about being the one to really, address this Junkrat focus. I wasn't sure where that focus was going to come from internally. It could be a DPS, concern or a focus fire. It could be a tank focus fire. But we did see Capra consistently both times when she fought the Junkrat that he was immediately bursted and was unable to get away from her. So anti-air obviously has been playing phenomenal these, map 2 and 3. But he does need to be careful now. He doesn't need to be careful not to over dial himself. He doesn't want to overextend as much anymore. He doesn't want to, put himself in these positions where he's allowed to be punished. So if he's able to get out of these situations carefully, he should definitely take them. So at least on the side of him, we did see the counters coming through, so that does need to continue to happen. But will anti-air decide to not use the Junkrat? We'll see. He might feel like, hey, it's enough now. Let me try something else. So Mob might know they're going to go left. So are they going to take an early fight here? I think they should. I don't think Off in Church is going to be able to fight this as effectively, especially if they're Mei wall separated. A big ice cube coming through. Unfortunately, Immortality is keeping Off in Church alive, but Mob isn't worried too much about it. Off in Church does need a lot of healing on their side, and there is 2 deaths going on Off in Church, so it is up to white power play coming from Mob Mentality. Lucio trying to get out of dodge. Is he going to be able to escape? And unfortunately, he's not able to make it. So we talked a little bit earlier, Yaga, about taking those early fights to not let them group, and it seems like Mob Mentality corrected their mistake from the beginning of the map.
Yeah, definitely a fool me once, shame on me.
Yeah, exactly. So the Pharah is coming out from anti-air. A little bit of the, old tricks aren't working anymore. Let's try something new. This is going to be the last push coming from Off in Church. As long as Mob gets a very aggressive and coordinated attack here, it should be okay, but there is a hack coming through. And a Reaper coming in from Guru. Coming in through the back line. And Off in Church doesn't see it coming. So to talk a little bit about that, and I believe this will be the last set. I mean, I didn't even know Mob had a Reaper. Did you? I didn't even see him. And I don't think Offenshire saw him either. I think Guru did a phenomenal job just playing sneaky, not showing his hand before. I mean, because correct me if I'm wrong, the enemy team won't see what character you have until you make yourself known.
Yeah.
So by kind of withdrawing that factor, there's no way to know the Reaper was coming, and Guru played it very, very smart to kind of show up at the last minute.
Reaper's able to play in a lot, other than long range, a lot of versatile way. You can play him as a flanker, you can play him as a brute on the front line, and Guru definitely choosing to stay hidden and assassinate basically the back line there, and it really paid evident for him there.
So a tough call coming from Off in Church. They have 4 minutes of attacking side to work with. Whenever you're put into situations like this, immediately in my mind is just bunker.
Yep.
And so we'll see if Off in Church is having the same messages. Bastion buys you a lot of time, even if you're not able to successfully defend 100%. Just having that focus fire and the tremendous amount of shield burst, may go the way. But there is Dive Winston bubble, so.
Well, you know that they have Junkrat up the sleeve, so they could run that with the Bastion, and that can still work for them.
So we'll see what Off in Church brings to the table. They haven't shown a Bastion yet, so it might not be happening here, but I won't rule it out completely. There is a Reinhardt shield. Up on the center choke. Let's take a look at the action from some of our healers today. So Off in Church choosing not to take that early fight. There is a turret on the top corner. Anti-air on the slush. Seems like Ashe is taking the high ground. They do have a member down, but they have plenty of time to regroup. Mob just needs to take this top. Just play it slow. Get some picks. Fortunately, Twiz does fall. And a little bit of scatter from Mob getting these separate picks. Flush on this Pharah, but there is a Torbjorn turret to deal with. Let's take an action to Guru. Guru's been getting a lot of picks from this backline. I feel like Guru is in his flow right now. There it is, coming through. And unfortunately, Caster's Curse. But he is getting back into the fight. And that might be enough. So kind of a slow wipe coming from Mob Mentality, able to take the last part of Temple of Anubis. And that just seemed to, and I know it wasn't, but to me, that seemed like a really messy team fight. It just seemed like a lot of people were falling from both sides, and there wasn't really any lack of engagement. But it worked out to Mob Mentality's benefit because of the respawn. So this is the big play coming from Anti-Air. Let's see where he's set up. Blasting right into the belly of the beast. And just pumping it out. I mean, a huge play coming from Anti-Air. Was able to get shut down by Capra, and I think the deciding factor was that focus on the Junkrat. As far as for the last attacking point. Alrighty, we're getting started with map number 4 of Junkertown. The score right now, Mob Mentality does have 2 wins under their belt. There is 1 draw that we have played on Hollywood. And so this is the last time for Off in Church to pretty much bring it to another, pretty much keep the set alive. And it really is on them. A lot of their players have been playing fantastic. We talked earlier about expecting to see a little bit more of the Widowmaker. That's definitely possible. So we'll keep an eye on the DPSs, on the healers to see what happens. coming out of the game.
And Widow is definitely a different pick now since the nerf to her health pool. Much easier to pick, and Ashe is a pretty dominant sniper. So another question arises of which sniper do you play on this map?
Exactly. And so, speaking of nerfs, I mean, let's talk about the Brigitte nerf. You know, I didn't catch up too much on the patch notes. What's going on with Brig? Do you have any idea what's going on with Brig?
It's kind of scattered all over the place, it seems. This one time the patch notes will say 150 health, but then they say they're just going to put it in PTR. And then the next they'll say they're putting it live, but you still haven't seen it. And so it is, I don't know.
I'm pretty sure nobody knows what's going on with Brig at this moment. All I'm pretty aware of is that a lot of people hate her, unfortunately. But
yeah,
I just love the Brig, but you know how it
I'm
goes.
a Tracer main, so I don't have any love for her. But I think 150 health is a little low.
It is quite low. And you remember back to the glory day. I call it the glory days of Brig, where you would have a 500 health shield and just burst down everybody you could. And so you felt like a mini Reinhardt, and it was phenomenal. But, you know, again, with all that aside, you know, we'll see what happens with a lot of those nerfs on the Brig side. I would have loved to see it on the AK side just to kind of use it a little bit against it, because we haven't really seen AK too much on these aggressive characters. So it would really be a good thing to see, especially to help Twiz with this frontline battle, which it seems like you know, I believe that's Jay. Is that Jay the Trash Man on? He's on the Sigma, and he does come back from the back from Guru to pick it off. So this might be the end of momentum. Capra does need to get out, or the team needs to get in. Either one. And look at Capra.
That was definitely a patience tactic from Offen Church there. Kind of taking the back line, kind of giving up a little on the front, but it looks like it may cost them.
It looks like they might not be able to get the better of that deal. A good coordinated pin to get the healer, counter pin, unable to come through. And it looks like it's just mop-up duty for Mob Mentality. And a good, strong first push. I mean, out of the gate, you just see Twiz immediately taking it to the Reinhardt. Setting the pace of battle, which is what we always love to see from both teams, is that being that smart aggression, playing that smart moves that you can do, you know, just goes to show how coordinated their efforts are. So this is the second phase of Junkertown. We do have 2 hit scans playing off. We did see Mob get a little bit punished from using 2 off DPSs, especially if the Reaper comes through.
Here it comes. That which is unseen. Observe the barrier.
A lot of shield break coming through. Ultimate. On the side of Mob, the pin barely misses. And Slush, I don't know if he knows if Reinhardt's behind him. And it didn't look like he was aware. Unfortunately, he does get dropped. The res coming in from AK. They need to get out of this high ground, though, because I believe they lost it. Twiz doing a good job keeping his shield up. Nobody on point on the side of Mob. Enemy Bob is going to be thrown. Counter Bob also thrown out as well. Good focus from the side of Mob Mentality. Jay trying to contest a little bit. Get rid of some of this Bob damage. Guru taking this high ground. It's going to be a Hanzo 1v1. Guru able to get the better of Wicked just by 5 health. Guru needs to be careful here. He is going to choose to wipe. It is going to be a hard reset. So we do have Transcendence on deck for the side of Gen. We know that Mob has used the Grav Dragon. There is an Azaria on this side this time, so the question is, what's going to set up the Dragon ulti? And unfortunately, Gen getting picked, but AK right there with the res once again. I believe this Transcendence might be enough to win the team fight for Mob Mentality if used correctly. Flush doing a good job putting in some damage, but he is low. He needs to be careful here. That grenade almost ends his life. And a 1-for-1 trade. Slush getting picked. And this is going to be a hard reset on the side of Mob Mentality. So Mob Mentality stuck in a little bit of a rut. The momentum has been slowed. So we got 4 ultis on the side of Mob Mentality, so it is up to them. They do have 2 minutes, but time is starting to dwindle. It looks like the team's going to elect to go right.
Everybody come
A
over
little bit of a slowdown.
here. Let me.
Time may become a factor as far as the grouping. I think the grouping was a tad little bit slow. Good Transcendence coming in through Jen. The Dragon is going to put a wrench in their plan, though. They need to get out. And nobody getting picked from that Dragon. Very smart play for everybody to stay out of the way of that. Counter grab coming through. Counter Dragon coming through. There's no counter Bob, unfortunately, and Bob does take out 2 of the healers, which might be the end of Mob Mentality's attacking run. Bob taking out 3. So another hard reset. So does Often Church have Mob Mentality stuck here?
And you have to figure out where the threat lies. What is stopping you, and kind of change up the pattern a little bit.
60 seconds remaining.
So this Winston change, I do think Twiz realized that a lot of the pressure coming through is just this battle's happening not on the point. It's happening on high grounds. Hanzo's taking the bridge above tunnel. You have the Sigma controlling the stairs. So unfortunately, Jen's not going to be able to follow here. And I don't know. Let's see. It should be okay. But this is a... They do need to take this fight quickly for Jen's sake. So I think Mob Mentality wanted to go through the top area, but not everyone could have followed. We do know how crazy the last phases of the maps go, so there's definitely still time to bring this back. Almost out of the way, but unfortunately doesn't make it. And this might be the last attack for Mob Mentality. Dragon coming through on point on Twiz. Twiz doing his best to stay alive, keep it alive. AK keeping him up, but unfortunately it won't be enough. And Often Church able to hold this point very, very effectively.
And it definitely seems like communication problems from Mob side. I mean, we can't hear what's actually going on, but you know, slow group ups for an attack. You went from about 2+ some minutes down to almost 1:30 before a push even started.
And yeah, it did seem like a lot of disorganization.
Having a
was
Zenyatta
happening.
not being able to follow you.
Exactly.
I mean, it just seems like a lot of communication errors here may have cost them.
So it may have been a little bit of a misstep, you know, as far as group tactics are concerned. So will that, you know, come back to haunt them in the later phases of the map? We'll have to see. I think that maybe it wasn't thought about going top left. Maybe it was an audible decision from somebody at the last second to kind of go there. And, you know, you could just see immediately from the replay about how much focus was on Jen when she couldn't follow. It was almost as if she couldn't partake in the team fight because Ash had the line of sight immediately. So I think the pick did come in, you know, on her, and AK did have to go res her. So, I mean, had it been a Lucio, had it been maybe a Baptiste, something to help with that, might have worked. We'll have to see, but I know Mob may have expected better, but there's no reason why their defense obviously can't be stellar. I mean, if you can hold this part better maybe than Often Church did, there's a potential you could take this set today, right now, but we'll have to see. I mean, it really is just dependent on running it better than Often Church had in the first phase. So all eyes are on pretty much the first few kills of this map. Will dictate the pace. If Mob is able to get the first few picks and able to take this under their thumb, then the hope does exist for them to take this first map.
And Orisa, kind of an uncommon pick with the new shield updates and everything now.
The shield is getting, you know, pretty melted pretty quickly. So we'll have to see if it's going to be enough. And unfortunately, Twiz does fall, but Guru does make it a 2 for 2. Guru showing up with the plays of his own. The res hopefully coming in on Twiz. And Guru kind of doing what we saw, you know, from Often Church, taking matters into his own hands. DPS showing up when they need to show up. I mean, that was a big, huge pick that Often Church got on Twiz on the Orisa, and Guru's just there to take it away from him.
Guru is ready to go home.
He is. He said, I'm ready to take the set today. I mean, Dragon's almost on board. Unfortunately, the enemy Hanzo and the caster's curse again. Unfortunately. giving it too many compliments. I mean, the dragon was almost there. This might be a slow wipe. Baptiste wall, obviously, with the update, making it much more viable, much wider space to work with. Dragon coming through. They need to be careful with it. Slush unable to get out of the way of it. But there is a dragon coming on the side of Guru, so does he want to commit to this, using this dragon at this point? Or will he choose to save it? It looks like their Mob Mentality is going to get a first point. So, Guru did his best in this situation, right? Maybe not exactly what Mob wanted. I'm sure they wanted a much bigger defense. They have held this spot in the past pretty effectively, so there's no reason why, as long as they're focusing targets, able to shield burst correctly. And unfortunately, anti does come through. Also, immortality is forced as well, so that's two things not able to use in this team fight. Dragon coming through. Often Church giving up a little bit more space, a little bit more room. And Campbell a little bit out of position on that res, but where in earth did that Earth Shatter come from? Molten Core coming out from Slush to keep it alive. One shot coming from Jay. Slush doing his best to keep things alive, but is the spawn going to be too far for Mob Mentality to come back? Twiz is the only one on point, waiting for his team, waiting for the troop reinforcements. But it looks like Offenchurch is going to give up space as well, so very lucky. I mean, we talk about that Earthshatter coming from Hawk. I mean, it just didn't seem like anybody saw it. It was just completely hidden in the bushes somewhere.
They must have gave him the new Sombra update.
Invis Reinhardt with Earthshatter. That must have been. So there's a nano on the side of Jen. Will this be used on Twiz, or is it going to be a DPS nano? We're going to have to see. I mean, based on how this range is playing, you might get more value from the DPSs. Anti is on him. Their window is ready from AK. And again, we talked about AK seeing a little bit more for these aggressive heroes. and it's going to pay off. Good healing coming through. AK keeping his team alive. I really like Capra's positioning to kind of zone out on the high ground. Sigma able to self-contain himself as much as possible. When his shield's down, he can absorb some of the impact bullets. And a good stagger coming from Nauri.
And being on that top part as well is helping out, because they're melting shields, so if you keep them in two separate places, it does, you know, kind of split up the bullets a little bit, buying you a little bit more time.
So this is a spot that Offenchurch did have trouble with before. And it looks like they're having trouble with it again. I mean, we saw them again last week get kind of stuck in this same area. And so is this something that maybe Offenchurch needs to see what do they need to do to break this? We haven't seen much dive aside from the monkey. Dragon is coming out. They do need to be careful on Mob Mentality not to get picked out here. Slush is falling and there is no res coming through. Bongo's being used. Shields being focused. Dragon also placed. Twiz going in. Balls to the walls trying to get this Reinhardt. The trash man backing up, and the healer's getting out. It seems like Offenchurch needs to do something different here. They need to bring something to the table that's going to address what Mob has done with the double shields. It's pretty similar to what Offenchurch ran against them, and so, you know, the question is how do you counter your own tactic? But it feels like the lack of change here might be the difference. We'll see what happens the last few minutes here. I mean, any pick from this point forward could be decisive from either team. Bob is coming out. Molten Core a little bit behind. I don't know how much Molten Core is going to help. It did cut them off a little bit. Capra doing a good job checking Jay the Trash Man. Another Earth Shatter from the Invis. Hawk unfortunately able to unable to contest. He is nanoed, but he is getting focus fired. And this might go the way of Mob Mentality, so if the stall comp's not coming through, it needs to come now. There is still time for a ball to roll and touch and contest. Is it going to happen? And there it is, last second contest. Mob needs to be careful. This could be anybody's fight, and they can't overextend here. They need to be very careful. Good dragon come from Guru to separate the team. There is need to be focus fire. Great shots coming from Guru. Huge ulti coming from AK. And that will be the end of the set. Mob Mentality takes it. 3-0 with one draw. I mean, that ending play from Guru was just... I hope it might be played. Unfortunately, it isn't. We did catch it, but let's see. Slush is going to come through with, I believe, with the Torbjorn ulti.
And this was a big hold here too, as well.
It was, and it was exactly
Definitely slowing
decisive.
momentum.
Exactly.
Epic.
You haven't seen anything yet.
Thank you, everybody, for watching. Be sure to follow our social media at Mob Mentality GG if you enjoyed the content. You can also catch us on our Discord server posted in the link below. As always, this is Boomtown, and I'll see you guys on game day.